I'm Lindsay Maloney, and this is the Book Your Dream Clients podcast. I built a six-figure coaching business while raising my 3 babies and working a 9 to 5, and I'm here to help you break free from the hustle mentality that's been holding you back from reaching your full potential so you can know your worth, step into your own power, and of course, book your dream clients. Welcome back to another episode of the Book Your Dream Clients podcast. Today we're visiting with Tracy Sherriff all about how to make an impactful online course. If you have an online course or you want to have one, listen to this episode because she is going to talk all about how to make it so it's effective for your students because their results are yours. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Tracy, thank you so much for being on the Book Your Dream Clients podcast. I'm so excited to have you on today.
Oh, and I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm really anxious to dig in because what you do is really unique. And I love having all of these unique guests on the show because I don't know everything. And you guys just really fill in the gaps. So why don't you tell everyone what you do and who you serve?
Okay, well, I am an online teaching strategist. My background is in education across the lifespan. So I've had many different experiences from little people like 0 all the way through to 6, 8 years old, through to school age children, doing some tutoring and some adults with disabilities and some adults in the college classroom. So I've taught across the lifespan. And so education has really been a big part of my life. And I'm really passionate about online teaching and online learning. I'm a lifelong learner myself. I take a lot of initiative with my learning, and I appreciate what the internet has done for us in terms of bringing lots of learning that we wouldn't necessarily be able to access to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so my focus is really to help those that are teaching online, particularly those coaches and consultants who are in the online space who have a successful business and they've launched a course or a program to really help them refine their program in a way that helps their students achieve better results and achieve those results faster. So basically, I help people design their learning to be more effective so that they can get more of their clients or students across the finish line.
I love that you are seeing it through the students' eyes and you know how important it is for those students to have results. And I think that's what makes such a good coach or course creator is your main priority is serving the students so they can meet their goal. And you help people do that. So you must have seen some kind of a gap or something that was missing from these online courses or things that people were struggling with. Could you fill us in on what those were?
Sure. Well, I think primarily there's a lot of subject matter experts out there. I mean, if you have something to teach, you can, like I said, you can create your course, you can create your program, and you have a lot of knowledge, but to be able to really package that knowledge in a way that is an effective learning experience for students is more challenging than people think it is. And so what I was noticing was that there was a real drive and passion for people to create products, and sometimes they want to create them and call them passive products, but I would like to challenge that and say a really good, effective learning experience for someone is not really effective if it's passive, that there is a constant need for engagement and feedback in order for that learning cycle to really take place. But what I was noticing was that a lot of people knew how to take what they know and maybe bullet point it out with an outline, but they don't really know how to translate that into effective learning. And so what was happening is we hear a lot about low completion rates. We hear a lot about refund rates that are higher than people would like. And we also have a consumer now all of the people that are buying these courses and programs that have higher expectations than they've ever had before. And so really wanting to make sure that I can help use the knowledge and passion that I have for teaching and for the student, and really help people make their experiences exciting, engaging, and, really support the learning that we all want, right? We're all looking for that transformation.
Absolutely. And I love that you pointed out that while those passive income goals sound really great and you hear everybody talk about them, and some of those courses can carry some courses can carry their weight doing that, but those bigger courses that people are selling, that support is so meaningful and powerful for that student success. So what kind of support do you like to see course creators giving their students?
Well, it starts right from the minute that they purchase your course. So they really need to have a really good, strong sense of belonging and a good understanding of what to expect, where to be, how to show up. There's a lot of, I'm trying to think of the word, but there's a lot of students that have make purchases and then they change their mind, right? Especially if it's a premium purchase. And so now this is the other thing I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot of coaches and consultants with, like I said, probably really great content, wanting to charge these really premium prices, right? And so sometimes students are having buyer's remorse. That's the word I was looking for earlier, buyer's remorse. So really making sure that you're creating an engaging experience right from the get-go. Students really need to know what to expect, and they also need to know why, right? Why am I investing my money and my time in this? What is it that I am going to see as the result of this? How is this going to change my life, right? Because we're all looking for that transformation. So they really need that to be really clear. They also need to have opportunities where there's choice built in, right? Adult learners are not the same as children. They're not passively engaged. They're on a mission. They have a problem that they want to get solved, but they also want to be respected for the fact that they do have knowledge and experiences that they bring with them from the past, and they want to have some opportunity too to make some choices about how they engage in the course or the program, how they consume content, how they contribute back to the learning environment. So anytime you can offer an element of community in your course or your online program, 100%, a lot of time on the front end needs to be put there in order to really create that container where the learning is most likely going to happen less from you, the teacher, and more from the interactions within the group, because they're going to learn from their peers as well. So I think really just making sure that they're prepared and making sure that you have this learning community that you've created and a really clear roadmap of where they're going and how they're going to get there.
I think that is such a great point to make. Usually when you sign up for a program, you go right into your inbox because you're waiting for those login details and what's next. And I always advise my students and clients, when they create a program and they launched it and they have students coming in, put yourself in the place of the student and what would you expect next to happen? What are your patterns? And then emulate that. And I think sometimes we miss all of those things because we get so carried away with the end result and we forget to fill in all of those bits and pieces. But it's so important because it's your next big impression on that person. You already made your first impression, they bought, but then now it's more important now to make them feel like they're going to be taken care of. So
100%.
yeah, what do you say about the person what do you say to the person who has this program and they're coming to you and their students aren't getting the results? What is a common thing? What is like something that is a red flag for you?
For me, it's if they have a bunch of content, but they don't really have clear goals and objectives for that content. And so a lot of times what happens is when I work with clients, they'll say, oh, I have goals and objectives, or I know what the outcomes are going to be. But when I dive a little deeper with them, they really don't. And what they have is an idea of what it is that is going to happen as a result of people doing things, but there's nothing really measurable there for the student to really be able to know if they're making progress or not. So a good learning outcome for every module, at least one for every module, and then at least 1 to 3 objectives for each lesson that you create, or content block is another way that I sometimes refer to lessons. So
Mm-hmm.
I think making sure that there's an action verb attached. So are they going to create something? Are they going to identify something? Are they going to reflect on something? Making sure that they know exactly what the outcome is going to be, and then you provide the content that helps them to get there, that measurable outcome, so that the student can have those regular check-ins along the way about the progress that they're making. They need to have those opportunities for those quick wins right from the gate, right? So making sure that you're not waiting till, you're in your 4th or 5th lesson or coaching call, or however you want to lay out your program, before they actually feel like they're achieving something. So people like to be rewarded for the time and the effort that they're putting in. So really making sure that those learning outcomes and those lesson objectives or lower level objectives are going to get the student from point A to point B, and that it's really well clear and laid out for the student.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we love to check things off and complete things. What are your favorite tools for holding the course? So there's so many different online schools and platforms. What are your favorites?
Well, I've used a variety of them. Right now, my favorite is Member Vault. It is a newer platform that not a lot of people may know about yet, but it is growing fast and furious.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a course platform. It actually offers a lot of opportunity for you to hold and host a lot of different content, whether it just be freebies, or even podcast episodes. Like, there's so many different ways you can use Member Vault. But I like it because there's an opportunity for you to really track the engagement of your students. They can earn engagement points as they're interacting with your content. And it's not a standalone tool like Kajabi, where Kajabi, there's a lot of different features and things built in.
Mm-hmm.
So Member Vault, though, can integrate with a lot of other tools that can also be embedded into it. And I like it because it is a sort of a grassroots, sort of born out of opportunity, small business, which is really sort of challenging the status quo about how we do things and how we engage with content. So Member Vault is definitely one of my preferred. But there are many, right? And so I think it is important for you to know what your goals are as the creator of the experience. What features do you need your course or your program to have? Because not every course or program needs to have all of the same features. It really depends on the experience that you're trying to create.
Mm-hmm. So what are your key points? This makes a successful course. This will, if you follow these guidelines, I know I'm putting you on the spot. If you follow these key things, you will have a course that will be effective for people. Like if you have the content and these things, what are those things that people might be missing?
Well, we'll start with the things that I think more in general terms. I talked already about having a really good, well mapped out learning journey. Mm-hmm. So looking at the end result and building backwards, mm-hmm. and making sure that you're not skipping any really important steps. You also want to have that learning community, and you want to you want to offer feedback loops. Right? You want to make sure that there's opportunities for them to get feedback, whether that's from you, from their peers, or even some self-checking, some self-reflection, in order for you to really monitor sort of where students are potentially getting stuck, or where you might even have pieces of content that you don't need, right? Because one of the things that tends to happen is this real connection, or the connection's not the right word, this idea that the more content that you have in there, the better the course or the more valuable the course. But what ends up happening is this content overwhelm. And so you really need to be able to narrow down exactly what are the must-have pieces of learning and experience that my student needs to have, and everything else can just be put to the side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our general feeling is that we need to just fill up the space with all kinds of resources and all kinds of information. And so we just really need to pare that down. I think it's how you connect your learning outcomes and objectives to the activities and tasks or missions that you send your client on that it really is important. It's that alignment between what it is we're trying to accomplish and how we're going to get there. And what I see a lot of times is that we miss out on opportunities to be creative in how we get clients to take action on things. So being able to make sure that you've picked the right activity or the right teaching strategy to match your goal is super important.
So how do you know if this is the first time you're ever launching a course? How do you know what your students need if you've never had students before?
You have to put yourself in the position as the novice. You have to forget everything you know and pretend you don't know anything. Write down every single step, every single point of sticky point for yourself where you might have gotten stuck, and just do a full-on brain dump to start with. You want to start at the back end, so the end result, and then work your way to the beginning. So that's a backwards design approach. It's actually, there's many different design approaches when it comes to creating a curriculum or a content journey or learning journey for your students. I find in the online space, there's a lot of aversion to the word curriculum, but I'm an academic, and so it's really hard for me not to use that word because content is not curriculum. And that's one thing that I want people to understand. Your content is your videos, your documents, your PDFs, and your workbooks, and all of those kinds of things. And you can have tons of content. If you don't have it mapped out in a way that there's some type of framework that's going to guide you as the teacher or the coach, and then guide your student along, you're going to miss things. There's going to end up to be knowledge gaps, skill gaps, and missed opportunities, right? So really, the first thing you should do, you have to put yourself in the shoes of your student and just start brainstorming every little possible step or piece of information that you might need to be successful to get you to that end result.
I love the backwards design. That's how I've done everything in my business. It helps me just as much as I hope it helps my students work things out. You always start with the end goal in mind and then work backwards. I think that's such an effective approach. And, online courses have been out there for a little while, and I think they're just getting more and more prominent because it's such a great way to learn, and it's a great way to earn an income for your business. Are there any trends that you see coming into the online course space that you see maybe people are pivoting to, or anything that you see that might be changing?
Well, I think, as I mentioned earlier, like the consumer themselves, they're expecting a lot more from their experience, especially for the premium prices that some people are charging. And I have no problem with premium pricing. I think there's a lot of time and effort and skill that goes into creating a really valuable learning experience. What I'm noticing, and this is sort of off the cuff, is this pivot to more of a hybrid approach where you have not just a standalone course where you purchase and you go in and you do self-study. While there is lots of those, I'm also seeing a lot of coaches and consultants that are creating courses where there's information that you can consume on your own with maybe some action items and then some hybrid coaching, whether that be group coaching or whether that be one-to-one coaching. And to me, those are the experiences that are probably the most likely going to see students moving from A to B, because they're going to have the level of support that they need. Most people, if they buy a course that is just intended for them to log in and work through on their own, we're just naturally uninclined to be motivated in that way. We might take pieces of the information, and that's fine. Sometimes that affects completion rates too, because sometimes we buy a course and we really only need module 2 and module 4. We've got module 1 down pat, module 3. So we just consume the information that we need, and we take the learning, and then we apply it, and it fits in. We assimilate it with what we already know. But I think this hybrid approach, especially if it includes some level of one-to-one, and that means smaller groups, right? So you have to really know how much time you have to devote to this experience, and you have to know what students are going to need in order to choose the best model for yourself.
Definitely. And so I love the way that my program has worked out, because I do meet all of my girls biweekly, and I have the community aspect, and we do a one-to-one at the beginnings, because I know that that's what my students want and that's what they need. So that's what I give them. And that's really important. I think so many of us get attracted to the easy ways, like the passive income style. But then that's not leading your business with the mindset of serving and generosity. And for me, that's always going to be the lens that I work through, is how can I serve you in the best way possible for me and you? And when you adapt that, then you're going to have those students who know you and refer you and go on all of your calls, and they love their experience. And then that creates big things for their business, and it's that ripple effect. So it goes so much more deeper than, have a course and make money. It goes so much more deeper than that. Do you agree?
100%. I think we are just naturally attracted to people and human connection. And, the teacher, as the subject matter expert, sort of is there to guide and lay out that framework, but the learning happens best when you are learning from each other, and the experiences that you can bring into a learning community where you're trying out some of these activities, or you have that fear, because there's a lot of that, right? Especially if you're a business coach and you've got people that are really trying to focus on launching a business. There's a lot of mindset stuff and a lot of fear that comes up, and knowing that there's this sense of belonging, that I can openly and safely share my feelings and experiences, and I'm not the only one. Those pieces are far more effective than just you putting up a talking head video and talking about mindset and all of those other things that your clients will need to overcome. There's a place for those things, and you need to know, I think, when you're creating content, what you can deliver in a video, because your time is valuable too, right? As the coach or the consultant or the person running the program or course, you need to know what pieces of information can be packaged up into an audio or a video file that they can consume on the go. And then what pieces of information are going to need a lot more massaging, a lot more opportunity for Q&A, and for sharing of experiences. And so I think that can sometimes be a challenge for people that, they have an idea of a framework for a course, and it's every module is going to have one video and one audio file and a downloadable workbook for reflection, right? There's more than PDFs that can impact learning in a really positive way. One example, I talked with a health coach once on a call, and, she wanted her clients to be able to sort of identify the things that were currently in their cupboards that were unhealthy, right? For simplicity, something that was unhealthy. And so while it would be easy for you to just put out a workbook and say, or a worksheet and say, okay, after the call, go into your cupboard and, write down all of the things and then post in the Facebook group, I suggested that while you're on the group call, why aren't people moving, getting up from their seats, going and finding one or two items from their cupboard and bringing them and showing them on the screen and saying, hey, look what I found, right? This
Mm-hmm.
is not the item that, I want to be having in my cupboard. Watch me, I'm going to toss it in the can, right?
Yeah.
And so that idea of it being really active versus passive learning, and people actually taking action on the call versus always having to walk away and do stuff after the fact. So kind of workshopping the opportunities for learning too, whether that be inside your Facebook group, just being really
Mm-hmm.
creative with it, and not sort of sticking to what I had seen happening with the status quo of the downloadable
Mm-hmm.
workbooks, right?
Right. Well, it does get a little stagnant after a while, after going through workbook after workbook, having a variety of things, workshops, videos, workbooks, audios, all different things. And I also believe that way, and I don't have the teaching background that you do, but I think it's best to have it that way, because then you're catering to all different senses and all different learning styles as much as possible.
100%. Yes. I know in my college class, for example, we have a discussion board, and I tell students, like, you can type your responses, or you could record yourself on a video, or you can upload an audio file. You can add images and links and share resources.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's not one way of
Mm-hmm.
being, right? And that goes a lot along with what students today are experiencing on social media, this idea of choice, putting up a gif or hitting the like
Mm-hmm.
button. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes in an LMS system in a college, things are a little drier. So you have to try to find ways to be creative. But interestingly, most students will still pick text even though you give them those choices. But the
Mm-hmm.
idea that they've got a choice
Yeah.
is helping me demonstrate that I value them as a student and recognize that we all learn differently and we all express ourselves differently. Now, obviously, if I was going to be grading them on their grammar, they would need to write something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you
Mm-hmm.
have to know what it is you're measuring, and in terms of the result, in order to be able to know what activity is an appropriate activity to go with it. But you know, I think we need to be focused a little bit too on making things more fun,
Mm-hmm.
and that can really increase engagement. And I know engagement is something that, particularly in some courses where there isn't a lot of support and inside of a learning community, that can be really difficult. It's really easy to just drop off and
Mm-hmm.
not log in.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we've all bought the course where we thought it was going to be this amazing thing, and then we get it and we're like, okay, where is it? Where is everyone? Or where is what I thought I was going to get? And then you go through a couple of things and you get bored and you're done, and then it's collecting dust on your computer. But I want everyone to feel really inspired to create their course, or to judge up their course a little bit if they have one, and know that it's not going to be perfect the first time you carry it through a student's journey. It's a constant work in progress. And it took me, almost 2 years to have my course the exact way I wanted it, because I always tune into my students and what they need. They are driving the car. I'll provide the vehicle, but they are going to show me how we're going to get there. And I think once you embody that student, and it's probably you a few years ago as well, just kind of go with that person instead of who you are now, you're going to create a great course. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to happen over time. Does that feel aligned with what you go with when you talk about creating your course, Tracy?
100%. I mean, it is a continuous cycle of improvement, right? But it's about really getting that feedback too from your students, and the opportunity for them to ask questions. And for sure, in the moment, you're going to also try to solve the problem or answer the
Mm-hmm.
question for them so that they aren't stuck, right? You want them to continue to move forward. But when you're reflecting on the experience after a 6 or 12 week or, year-long program that you've had someone in, you really need to look at the data as a whole, not just from one or two students, but all students. Know that everyone learns differently, and that, there are some things that, you might get some feedback and you have to make some decisions about what you might need to refine, and what stays and what goes. But your students are the person that's really going to be able to give you that information. So knowing when to ask for feedback and what types of questions to ask is really important. Some students, they're not really great with open-ended questions. Tell me what your biggest takeaway was, right? You may not get the most information from that. You'll get some information, but the more specific, tell me how you felt when you first logged in to the Facebook group. That's going to give you so much more information around, whether people felt it was a positive experience, whether it was welcoming, whether it was confusing, all of those things. So it's knowing what questions to ask too, which is also part of the work that I do with clients, because when you're refining, you might refine it after the first time, the second time, the third time. And maybe the first time you're refining, you're focusing on content, and maybe there's some content pieces that we're missing or some sticky points. Maybe the next time you're refining, you're focusing on upping the engagement level. And, all of those different possible things that might get in the way of the success of your student, you need to prioritize. You may not be able to sort of fix everything after one run through, and know that you probably need several students to really sink their teeth into your program or your course before you'll actually get it to the point where you're feeling like you've kind of hit where you're feeling good about it, they're feeling good about it, and you're really proud of it.
Love it. This was such a great conversation, Tracy. How can people find you so they can hear more about what you do?
Well, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. So I do have a business page. It's Tracy Sherriff, and it's Teacher Tribe Online is my business page. And I recently just started a new group called High Touch Programs That Impact, specifically for coaches and consultants with programs and that are looking to work through that refinement process to really better understand how to design for the way people learn, how to get the most effective results in the fastest or shortest period of time, and really just wanting to build a community of people that really are looking for that cycle of continuous improvement with a little bit of guidance from someone who's been doing this for a lot of years. So there's 3 places that you can find me, and I welcome you to check me out anywhere and connect with me. I love connection.
Awesome. Well, we will put all of your information in the show notes. You guys can go ahead and find Tracy. It's Sherriff with 2 R's and 2 F's. And you can go find her and learn about what she does, because I think it's really important to learn from somebody who is 5 to 10 steps ahead. If we've never been in the education space, taking that knowledge from people who know it in a different way is going to be really great for your course. So be sure you go show Tracy some love and learn from her, because she just gave you so many good things to take into consideration for your course. So thank you so much for being on the podcast, Tracy. I appreciate all of your generous information, and we loved having you.
Yes, and I loved being here. Thank you so much for letting me share some of my nuggets of wisdom.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Book Your Dream Clients podcast. I am so grateful for you, and I want to be sure you are a part of my free community. Go to dreamclientcommunity.com and join our free Facebook group. We have all kinds of cool things happening every single day, so don't miss out. Also, if you love downloading freebies, check out my freebie vault on my website by going to lindsaymaloney.com, selecting freebie vault, and there you can download all the things that will help you start and scale your coaching business. And if you're feeling extra generous, be sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next episode.